Welcome back to another incredible story that proves respect and dignity should be given to everyone, regardless of their appearance. Comment where you're watching from today as we dive into a powerful encounter that changed lives forever. At the prestigious Blackwood Heights Shopping Center in Beverly Hills, the morning sun cast long shadows through the expansive glass windows of Carver's Elite Dining, where Merrick Winslow had been the general manager for the past 5 years. The restaurant's reputation for exclusivity was matched only by its notorious policy of maintaining certain standards, a phrase Merrick used to mask his discriminatory practices. On this particular morning, Ronan Kensington, a decorated veteran who had served 3 tours in Afghanistan, walked into Carver's Elite Dining. Despite his distinguished military career and successful business ventures, Ronan chose to dress casually, wearing a simple black t-shirt and jeans. His calm demeanor and quiet confidence went unnoticed by those who were too quick to judge based on appearances. The restaurant's usual breakfast crowd of wealthy patrons included Viggo Radcliffe, a well-known real estate mogul, and Ophelia Blair, a celebrated interior designer. They watched with growing discomfort as Merrick's attitude toward Ronan began to shift from professional courtesy to barely concealed disdain. "I apologize, sir, but we're fully booked," Merrick announced loudly, despite several empty tables clearly visible in the dining area. His voice carried a note of superiority that made several heads turn. "Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the diner down the street." Ronan maintained his composure, his voice steady as he replied, "I have a reservation under Kensington, made it 3 days ago, confirmed yesterday." He pulled out his phone to show the confirmation email. Merrick's lips curled into a sneer as he glanced at the phone. "Anyone can make a reservation online. That doesn't guarantee certain standards are met." His emphasis on those last words drew disapproving glances from some patrons, while others pretended not to notice the growing tension. The situation caught the attention of Dahlia Rhodes, a regular customer who had witnessed Merrick's behavior before, but had never seen it quite so blatant. She watched as Ronan stood his ground, maintaining a dignity that seemed to irritate Merrick even more. "I assure you I meet all your standards and then some," Ronan stated calmly. "I'm here for a business meeting with Cassius Bexley." The mention of the name caused Merrick to falter slightly. Cassius was one of their most valued customers, but Merrick had already committed to his course of action. "Listen here." He lowered his voice to a harsh whisper. "We both know what this is about. I can't have you disturbing our regular clientele. This establishment has a reputation to maintain." As the confrontation escalated, none of them noticed the black SUV pulling up outside or the familiar figure stepping out, someone whose presence would soon turn this situation on its head. The restaurant's security cameras silently recorded everything, streaming directly to a particular phone belonging to someone who had been anonymously monitoring Merrick's behavior for weeks. Ronan's military training was evident in his controlled response. "Sir, I suggest you reconsider your position. Discrimination based on race is not only morally wrong, but illegal." Merrick's face reddened. "How dare you accuse me of discrimination? I'm simply maintaining our standards. Now leave before I'm forced to call security." His voice had risen again, drawing more attention from the growing crowd of onlookers. Eden Locke, a young waitress who had worked at Carver's for 2 years, watched the scene unfold with increasing anxiety. She had witnessed Merrick's prejudiced behavior before, but had been too afraid to speak up for fear of losing her job. Today felt different. Something in the air suggested change was coming. Outside, the figure from the SUV paused before entering, speaking quietly into a phone. "Yeah, I'm here. Let's see how this plays out before we step in. Cameras rolling? Good." Back inside, Merrick had moved from behind his podium, taking an aggressive stance. "I won't ask again. Leave now, or things will get unpleasant." His hand moved toward the security button under the host station. Ronan remained unmoving, his voice steady. "Things are already unpleasant, Mr. Winslow, but I'm not going anywhere. You see, this meeting isn't just with Cassius Bexley, it's about acquiring this restaurant." A sudden hush fell over the dining room. Merrick's face went from red to pale in an instant. "What did you say?" "You heard me correctly. Phoenix Capital Partners has been looking to expand its restaurant portfolio. We've been monitoring several establishments, including this one. Your behavior today has been quite illuminating." The name Phoenix Capital Partners caused several patrons to whisper among themselves. The investment firm was known for its strategic acquisitions and its commitment to transforming toxic workplace cultures. Merrick's composure cracked slightly. "You're lying. This is some kind of trick." "No trick." A new voice joined the conversation. The restaurant's door chimed as Sylvester Stallone walked in, phone in hand, security team flanking him. "Actually, Mr. Kensington here is being modest. Phoenix Capital Partners is one of our joint venture partners in the restaurant industry." The entire restaurant fell silent. Merrick's face drained of all color as he recognized the Hollywood legend, who was also known for his successful business ventures and zero tolerance for discrimination. "I've been watching the security feed," Stallone continued, holding up his phone. "Been monitoring this place for weeks, actually. Had some complaints about the management here. Thought I'd come, see for myself." His familiar voice carried authority that commanded attention from everyone in the room. Ronan maintained his professional demeanor, though a slight smile played at the corners of his mouth. "Mr. Stallone, I apologize for starting without you." "No apology needed," Stallone replied, his gaze fixed on Merrick. "You handled it exactly as we expected. Professional, dignified, giving him every chance to correct his behavior." Merrick's attempts to backtrack were painful to watch. "Mr. Stallone, there's been a terrible misunderstanding. I was simply trying to maintain our standards." "Your standards?" Stallone interrupted, his voice sharp. "Let me tell you about standards. This man right here, Lieutenant Colonel Ronan Kensington, Bronze Star with Valor, Purple Heart, built one of the most successful veteran-owned investment firms in the country. But more importantly, he's a man who just stood here with more dignity and class than you've shown in your entire career." The revelation sent shockwaves through the restaurant. Eden Locke, the waitress, felt tears welling up in her eyes. Finally, someone was standing up to Merrick's bigotry. Stallone wasn't finished. "You know what real standards are? Treating every person who walks through that door with respect. Judging people by their character, not their skin color. Those are standards worth maintaining." Merrick's world was crumbling around him. I didn't know." "That's exactly the point," Ronan interjected calmly. "You didn't know, yet you chose to judge. Every person you've turned away, every life you've impacted with your prejudice, you never knew their story. You never cared to know." The morning sun had risen higher now, its rays illuminating the scene through the restaurant's windows. The light seemed to highlight the stark contrast between Merrick's crumbling authority and Ronan's quiet strength. Stallone turned to address the restaurant's patrons. "I apologize to everyone here who's had to witness this, but sometimes these moments need to be public. Change doesn't happen in the shadows." The story continues in our next chapter, where we'll see how this confrontation leads to unexpected consequences and transformations. Remember to like and subscribe to catch the next part of this powerful encounter. Share in the comments if you've ever witnessed someone standing up against discrimination. Your stories matter. The tension in Carver's elite dining had reached a fever pitch as Sylvester Stallone's presence transformed the dynamic of the confrontation. But what happened next would reveal even deeper layers to this story of discrimination and redemption. Cassius Bexley, the high-profile client Ronan was supposed to meet, arrived just as the situation was unfolding. His expression darkened as he took in the scene before him. As one of the city's most respected business consultants, Cassius had experienced his own share of discrimination but had worked tirelessly to change the system from within. "I see the meeting started without me," Cassius remarked, his voice carrying a weight of understanding. He exchanged knowing looks with both Ronan and Stallone, suggesting this confrontation had been orchestrated more carefully than anyone realized. Merrick Winslow's attempt to regain control of the situation only made things worse. "Mr. Bexley, please, you've been a valued customer for years. Surely you understand we have certain protocols." "Protocols?" Cassius interrupted, his voice sharp but controlled. "Like the protocol that had me waiting 40 minutes for a table last month despite my reservation. Or the protocol that somehow always seems to lose the reservations of people who look like me." The revelation caused a stir among the patrons. Vera Thatcher, a food critic who had been quietly documenting the scene on her phone, suddenly understood why she'd received so many confidential complaints about the restaurant's selective service. Stallone pulled out a folder from his leather briefcase. "We've been building this case for months, ever since Killian Wexler, your former host, came to us with documentation of your discriminatory practices." The mention of Killian's name caused Merrick to stumble backward slightly. Killian had resigned 3 months ago, citing ethical concerns. Concerns Merrick had smugly dismissed. Eden Locke, still watching from near the service station, stepped forward. Her voice trembled slightly, but grew stronger as she spoke. "I have documentation too, screenshots of modified reservations, recordings of Mr. Winslow's training sessions, where he taught us how to politely turn away certain customers." Merrick's face contorted with rage. "You little—" "Choose your next words very carefully," Stallone warned, his voice carrying the kind of authority that could only come from decades of both on-screen and real-life leadership. Ronan maintained his composed demeanor, though his eyes held a steely determination. "Mr. Winslow, your behavior today was not an isolated incident. We have testimonies from over 30 former customers and employees, all documenting systematic discrimination under your management." Thea Whitman, an elderly patron who had been quietly sipping her tea throughout the confrontation, suddenly spoke up. "I've been coming here for 20 years, since before Mr. Winslow took over. This used to be a place where everyone was welcomed. The food was excellent, yes, but it was the diversity of the clientele that made it special. That all changed 5 years ago." The restaurant had grown eerily quiet as more patrons began sharing their observations. Silas Drake, a regular customer, who had always kept to himself, described how he'd witnessed Merrick turning away a celebrated jazz musician just last week, claiming they were fully booked despite having several empty tables. Stallone turned to address the room again. "Change doesn't just happen. It takes people willing to stand up, to document, to speak out. Everyone who contributed to exposing this situation is part of that change." Merrick, seeing his carefully constructed world crumbling, made one last desperate attempt to assert control. "You can't prove anything. This is all hearsay and coincidence. I have connections, lawyers." "Actually," came a new voice from the entrance. Iris Lennox, the city's deputy district attorney, walked in with a small team of officials. "They can prove quite a lot. We've been building a civil rights case against you and this establishment for months." The color drained from Merrick's face as Iris continued. "What's particularly interesting is how your discriminatory practices extended beyond customers to employment opportunities as well. Care to explain why every minority applicant for management positions over the past 5 years was deemed unqualified, despite their superior experience?" Ronan stepped forward, his presence commanding yet reassuring. "This isn't about revenge, Mr. Winslow. This is about accountability and change. Phoenix Capital Partners isn't just acquiring this restaurant. We're transforming it into a model of inclusive excellence." Stallone nodded in agreement. "Every employee will be offered the opportunity to stay on under new management, provided they commit to our values of equality and respect. Those who've been wronged will be made whole. But first, we need to address the cancer of discrimination that's been allowed to grow here." The morning sun now streamed fully through the windows, illuminating the scene in stark clarity. Merrick Winslow, the man who had wielded his power so carelessly to hurt others, stood exposed in its light. Cassius pulled out his phone and pulled up a document. "This is a list of every qualified candidate you rejected based on race over the past 5 years. Among them is my nephew, Dorian Quimby, who had 15 years of restaurant management experience and a degree in hospitality management." Eden, gaining confidence from the support around her, added, "He made us create fake performance reviews to justify not promoting minority staff. Zara Garrison in the kitchen should have been sous chef 2 years ago, but he kept passing her over. For less experienced candidates." Iris Lennox stepped closer to Merrick. "Mr. Winslow, I suggest you accompany us downtown. We have some questions about these practices, and I believe you'll find cooperation in your best interest." As 2 officers moved to escort Merrick out, he finally broke. "You don't understand. I was just maintaining the restaurant's reputation. The clientele expects a certain atmosphere. The only atmosphere customers should expect," Stallone replied firmly, "is one of excellence, respect, and dignity for all. That's the reputation worth maintaining." Ronan turned to address the staff who had gathered to witness the scene. "Starting today, things will be different. Every employee will receive fair treatment, equal opportunities for advancement, and a workplace free from discrimination. Those who left because of discriminatory practices will be contacted and offered the chance to return." The transformation was already beginning. Uma Penrose, a longtime server who had worked there for 12 years, spoke up through tears. Finally someone said something, did something." As Merrick was led out of the restaurant, Stallone turned to Ronan. "You handled that exactly as we hoped you would. Gave him every chance to do the right thing, maintained your dignity throughout." Ronan nodded solemnly. "Sometimes the best way to fight discrimination is to let it expose itself. But what matters now is what we build from here." The story continues in our next chapter, where we'll see the beginning of the restaurant's transformation and the ripple effects throughout the community. Don't forget to like and subscribe to catch the next part of this powerful story. Share in the comments if you've ever been part of making positive change in your community. Your experiences matter. As news of the morning's events at Carver's Elite Dining spread throughout the city, the restaurant became the focal point of a larger conversation about systemic discrimination and the power of standing up against injustice. The aftermath would reveal both the deep-rooted nature of the problem and the community's determination to create lasting change. Evangeline Holt, the city's premier restaurant consultant, arrived shortly after Merrick's departure. Her presence was no coincidence. She'd been quietly recruited by Phoenix Capital Partners to help transform the establishment's toxic culture. As she surveyed the scene, her experienced eyes took in both the obvious and subtle signs of ingrained discrimination. The segregation was built into the very layout, Evangeline observed, pointing out how the seating arrangement had been deliberately designed to keep certain tables out of prominent view. "It's disturbing how much thought went into making discrimination look elegant," Ronan nodded grimly. "That's why the renovation plans go beyond just changing management. We're literally breaking down these walls of prejudice." Stallone, who had been speaking quietly with some of the affected staff members, rejoined the conversation. "The stories I'm hearing, this goes deeper than just Merrick. This was a system that enabled and rewarded discriminatory behavior." Griffin, Truitt, the head chef who had worked under Merrick's regime, stepped forward. His hands were shaking as he spoke. "I tried to fight it at first. Every time I wanted to promote Zara Garrison, every time I suggested menu items celebrating diverse cuisines. But Merrick had ways of making life difficult for those who opposed him. As if summoned by her name, Zara emerged from the kitchen, still wearing her chef's whites. Her eyes were red, but her voice was strong. For 3 years, I watched less experienced chefs get promoted over me. Each time, there was a different excuse. Not quite ready. Need more seasoning. Waiting for the right opportunity. Stallone's expression hardened. Those opportunities end today. Ms. Garrison, I believe you're well overdue for a promotion. How does executive chef sound? Griffin smiled warmly. It's about time. She's been running this kitchen in all but title for the past year anyway. The restaurant's regular breakfast service had been suspended, but the space was far from empty. Delilah Wynn, a local civil rights attorney who had been instrumental in building the case against Merrick, arrived with a team of advocates to begin documenting additional testimonies. The goal isn't just to punish discrimination, Delilah explained to the gathered staff. It's to create a model for systemic change that other establishments can follow. Ronan gathered everyone in the main dining room, where the morning sun now filled the space with natural light. Starting today, this restaurant begins its transformation. Not just in policy, but in spirit. We're renaming it Unity Table, a place where every guest is welcomed with equal respect and dignity. As he spoke, Finian Granger, the restaurant's longest-serving waiter, raised his hand. "Sir, there's something you should know. Some of us, we kept a secret list. Names and contacts of qualified people Merrick turned away, both customers and job applicants. We thought someday someone would need to know." The revelation brought tears to several eyes. Even in the midst of discrimination, people had been quietly documenting, hoping for change. Stallone placed a supportive hand on Finian's shoulder. That kind of courage, doing what's right even when it seems hopeless, that's what really creates change. Evangeline had begun making notes on her tablet. "We'll need comprehensive retraining for all staff, but not the kind Merrick insisted on. This will be about genuine hospitality, cultural competency, and recognizing unconscious bias." As the morning progressed, more people arrived. Jasper King, a prominent local business leader who had been turned away multiple times, came to share his story. With him was his daughter Aurora James, a successful restaurant owner herself. "When I was rejected, I opened my own place," Aurora explained. "Made it a point to hire people Merrick had turned away. Now, we're one of the highest-rated restaurants in the city. Success is the best revenge, but justice is even better." The media had begun gathering outside, but Stallone and Ronan were careful about managing the narrative. This wasn't about publicity, it was about real change. Priya Montgomery, a social media influencer known for highlighting issues of discrimination in the hospitality industry, had been invited to document the transformation. "This isn't just about one restaurant," she explained to her followers during a live stream. "It's about challenging the subtle ways discrimination persists in spaces that consider themselves exclusive." As the day progressed, more former employees began arriving, having heard the news. Among them was Killian Wexler, the former host whose documentation had helped build the case. His arrival created a powerful moment. "I couldn't stay silent anymore," Killian explained, his voice thick with emotion. "Every day, watching people's dignity being stripped away, it wasn't just wrong, it was soul-crushing." Ronan and Stallone had prepared for this moment. They unveiled a new hiring initiative, starting with reviewing all the qualified candidates who had been previously rejected based on discriminatory practices. "The transformation of this space is just the beginning," Ronan announced. We're establishing a training program for minority restaurant management professionals. The Unity Table will become a launching pad for talent that other establishments tried to suppress. Elodie Carr, a former bartender who had quit due to Merrick's discriminatory practices, returned with a proposal. I've been running a successful cocktail consulting business. Let me help create a bar program that celebrates diverse cultural influences and traditions. The energy in the room was transforming from anger and hurt to hope and determination. Even the skeptics among the staff began to see that this wasn't just talk. Real change was happening. Stallone shared his own perspective. In my career, I've played characters who fought against injustice. But real heroes? They're people like Finian, who kept that list, like Killian, who gathered evidence, like Zara, who persevered despite everything. Those are the real fighters. As the afternoon approached, Ronan gathered everyone for one final announcement. Tomorrow, we begin the physical renovation, but today, we start the human renovation. Every person who was turned away will receive a personal invitation to return as our honored guests. Every employee who faced discrimination will have the opportunity for advancement. The story continues in our next chapter, where we'll see the beginning of Unity Table's physical and cultural transformation. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see how this powerful story of change unfolds. Share in the comments your own experiences of witnessing positive transformation in your community. Your stories inspire others to take action. The transformation of Carver's elite. Dining into Unity Table was more than just a change of name. It represented a fundamental shift in the community's stance against discrimination. As the renovation began, the story of change spread far beyond the restaurant's walls. Stallone Prescott, the acclaimed architect chosen for the renovation, stood in the center of the dining room with his detailed plans. The old layout was designed to segregate, he explained to Ronan and Stallone. Our new design creates connection. Every table will be a good table. Every space will be welcoming. The construction team, led by Dante Wolfe, had already begun, removing the physical barriers that Merrick had used to create his preferred seating areas. As walls came down, stories emerged from the staff about how these architectural elements had been used to hide certain customers from view. Celeste Quinn, the newly appointed general manager who had previously been passed over for promotion at 3 other establishments, worked alongside Evangeline Holt to implement new training protocols. We're not just changing policies, Celeste explained to the staff. We're creating a new standard for the industry. Stallone, who had remained deeply involved in the transformation, brought in his friend Quentin Lennon, a renowned diversity and inclusion consultant. The key, Quentin emphasized, is making inclusion part of your DNA, not just your dress code. The kitchen was undergoing its own revolution under Zara Garrison's leadership. She had immediately promoted Thorne Archer, a talented sous chef who Merrick had relegated to prep work, despite his classical training and innovative culinary vision. Our new menu will celebrate diversity, Zara announced during the first kitchen staff meeting. Every dish tells a story of cultural heritage and respect. We're moving beyond fusion to true cultural appreciation. As word spread about the changes, former customers who had been turned away began reaching out. Odette Jameson, a celebrated jazz singer who had been refused service multiple times, was invited to perform at the grand reopening. Music has always been about bringing people together, she reflected. Now this space will do the same. The transformation caught the attention of Rhea Langston, the city's most influential food writer. Her investigation into Merrick's practices had uncovered similar patterns at other high-end establishments. What's happening at Unity Table isn't just about one restaurant, she wrote in her column. It's about challenging the culture of exclusivity that often masks discrimination. Ronan's vision extended beyond just the restaurant. He brought in Ileana Carver, an expert in hospitality education, to develop a training academy. Unity Table Institute will provide opportunities for aspiring restaurant professionals who have faced discrimination in the industry, Ileana explained. We're creating a pipeline of talent that will transform restaurants across the city. The construction work revealed unexpected symbols of the past. Behind a false wall, they discovered a mural from the 1960s depicting a diverse group of people sharing a meal. Luca Donovan, the building's original architect's son, arrived to share its history. This restaurant was originally opened by my father as a place where everyone was welcome, Luca explained, his voice thick with emotion. Somewhere along the way, that vision was lost. It feels right that it's being restored now. Stallone, examining the mural, made a decision. This needs to be the centerpiece of the new design, a reminder of where we came from and where we're going. The staff training sessions became powerful forums for sharing experiences and healing. Uma Garrison, a veteran server, shared how she had watched helplessly as countless guests were humiliated. Now we have the power to make it right, she said, wiping away tears. Phoenix Capital Partners, under Ronan's leadership, announced a citywide initiative to audit other restaurants for discriminatory practices. Cassius Bexley was appointed to lead the task force, bringing his years of experience in business transformation to bear. This isn't about punishment, Cassius explained during a press conference. It's about creating systemic change. We're offering resources and support for restaurants ready to transform their cultures. The physical renovation proceeded rapidly, but the human transformation was even more remarkable. Eden Locke, who had bravely spoken up against Merrick, was promoted to head of customer relations. Her first task was reaching out to everyone who had been turned away, extending personal invitations to return. Sayomara Harlow, a former hostess, who had quit rather than enforce Merrick's discriminatory policies, returned to join the new team. When I left, I thought I was giving up, she said during a staff meeting. Now I realize I was just waiting for the right moment to come back and make a difference. The new Unity Table uniforms, designed by Jessamine Osborne, replaced the stuffy, formal wear Merrick had mandated with elegant, comfortable attire that celebrated diversity. Every employee should feel proud and authentic in their appearance, Jessamine explained. No more forcing people to change their natural hair or hide their cultural identity. As the renovation neared completion, Ronan and Stallone organized a private dinner for all the employees who had suffered under Merrick's leadership. Griffin Truitt and Zara Garrison collaborated on a menu that told their stories through food. Each dish represents resilience, Zara explained as she presented the courses. The appetizer is inspired by my grandmother's recipe, the one Merrick said was too ethnic for the menu. The main course combines classical techniques with cultural heritage. The dessert represents sweet victory. The evening became a celebration of survival and transformation. Kira Langston, who had been fired for defending a customer against discrimination, shared her story of starting a successful catering business. Sometimes being pushed out of a toxic space is the universe making room for something better, she reflected. Stallone, watching the interactions, turned to Ronan. This is more than we hoped for. It's not just about changing a restaurant, it's about changing hearts and minds. The story continues in our next chapter, where we'll witness Unity Table's grand reopening and its impact on the community. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see how this transformation concludes. Share in the comments your own stories of positive change in your community. Every voice adds to this important conversation. As Unity Table's transformation progressed, the ripple effects began touching lives far beyond its walls. However, not everyone in the community welcomed the changes, and the team would soon face unexpected resistance that would test their resolve. Arlo Bennett, the president of the Exclusive Restaurant Association, called an emergency meeting to discuss the concerning changes at the former Carver's Elite Dining. The old guard of the city's dining scene was becoming nervous about what Unity Table's transformation might mean for their own establishments. "This isn't just about one restaurant," Arlo declared to the assembled restaurant owners. "These inclusive policies could destroy the very notion of exclusive dining." His words revealed the deeper prejudices still entrenched in the industry. When word of the meeting reached Ronan and Stallone, they knew they needed to address the resistance head-on. "Change makes people uncomfortable," Stallone observed, "especially those who've benefited from the old system." Sarai Foster, a civil rights attorney working with the Unity Table team, helped prepare a comprehensive presentation about the legal and business benefits of inclusive practices. "Discrimination isn't just wrong, it's bad for business," she explained during a press conference. The transformation had attracted the attention of Emmett Rhodes, a Michelin-starred chef known for his work in promoting diversity in fine dining. He arrived to support Zara Garrison's kitchen revolution, bringing with him a wealth of experience in combining excellence with inclusivity. "The idea that exclusivity must mean exclusion is outdated," Emmett declared during a staff training session. "True luxury is about making every guest feel extraordinary." The resistance took an ugly turn when anonymous negative reviews began appearing online. Bellamy Ray, Unity Table's new social media manager, tracked the posts to a coordinated campaign. "By supporters of the old system, they're trying to paint us as lowering standards," Bellamy explained to the team. "But our response isn't to fight back, it's to showcase our excellence." Ronan's strategy was brilliant in its simplicity. Transparency. He invited Mira Grayson, a respected documentary filmmaker, to capture every aspect of the transformation, from the kitchen to the dining room, from staff training to guest experiences. "Let the quality speak for itself," Ronan insisted. "We're not just maintaining standards, we're elevating them by removing the artificial barriers of discrimination." The documentary captured powerful moments of change. Vigo Jennings, a veteran sommelier who had worked at several exclusive establishments, shared his experience of watching talented colleagues being passed over because they didn't fit a certain image. "Wine knowledge doesn't care about your skin color," Vigo stated firmly. "Excellence doesn't discriminate." Unity Table's training program was exceeding expectations. Under Ileana Carver's leadership, the Unity Table Institute had already received hundreds of applications from aspiring hospitality professionals who had faced discrimination elsewhere. Ren Holloway, one of the Institute's first students, shared her story during a training session. 3 years ago, I was told I didn't have the right look for fine dining service. Today, I'm learning from the best in the industry, and my background is seen as an asset, not a liability. The resistance from the old guard prompted unexpected allies to step forward. Ika Osborne, owner of 5 prestigious restaurants, publicly broke ranks with the Restaurant Association to support Unity Table's mission. "I've been complicit in this system for too long," Ika admitted during a press conference. "It's time for all of us to acknowledge our role in perpetuating discrimination and commit to real change." Stallone leveraged his connections to bring more influential voices to the cause. Uma Penrose, a celebrated food critic, conducted a blind tasting of Zara's new menu items against dishes from the city's most exclusive restaurants. "The results speak for themselves," Uma wrote in her column. "Unity Table isn't just matching the standards of fine dining, it's redefining them." The transformation faced a crucial test when Sage Delaney, one of Merrick's most vocal supporters and owner of a competing restaurant, attempted to poach Unity Table's newly promoted staff with promises of higher wages, but the staff's loyalty had been earned through respect and opportunity, not just money. Noah Montgomery, who had been promoted from busser to floor manager, spoke for many. "This isn't just a job anymore. It's a movement. We're part of something bigger than ourselves." The documentary captured a powerful moment when Leif Granger, an elderly regular who had frequented the restaurant for decades, experienced the new Unity Table for the first time. "I've been dining here for 40 years, Leif said, tears in his eyes. "But this is the first time it's felt truly special. The energy, the joy in service, you can taste it in the food, feel it in the atmosphere." As the resistance continued, Ronan and Stallone organized a unique event. Unity Table Presents, A Taste of Change. They invited restaurant owners, critics, and influencers to experience the new standard of inclusive excellence firsthand. The event was masterfully orchestrated by Zara and her team. Each course told a story of transformation, featuring dishes that Merrick had once rejected as too ethnic or not refined enough, now elevated to new heights of culinary excellence. Priya Keaton, a prominent food blogger, captured the evening's significance. "This isn't just about changing a menu or a service style, it's about challenging our preconceptions of what fine dining can be." The resistance began to crumble as more industry leaders experienced Unity Table's new approach. Even Arlo Bennett had to admit, after experiencing the service and cuisine firsthand, that his fears had been misplaced. "I was wrong," he announced. During the event's closing remarks, Unity Table hasn't lowered standards, it's shown us how artificial our limitations were. The documentary captured the moment when Zara received word that Unity Table had been nominated for several prestigious industry awards, including Most Innovative Restaurant and Best New Dining Experience. "These nominations aren't just for us," Zara told her team. "They're for every person who was ever told they didn't belong in fine dining. We're proving that excellence knows no boundaries." The story continues in our next chapter, where we'll see how Unity Table's success begins to transform the entire industry. Don't forget to like and subscribe to witness the conclusion of this powerful journey. Share in the comments your thoughts on how businesses can become more inclusive while maintaining excellence. Your insights help drive the conversation forward. The success of Unity Table's transformation had sparked a movement larger than anyone had anticipated. As the restaurant prepared for its official grand reopening, the impact of its changes was creating waves throughout the industry and inspiring others to examine their own practices. Asher Doyle, the city's leading hospitality industry consultant, had been closely monitoring Unity Table's progress. "What they've achieved here isn't just about changing one restaurant," he explained to a group of industry leaders. "They've created a blueprint for transforming the entire hospitality sector." The evidence was becoming undeniable. Under Zara Garrison's leadership, Unity Table's kitchen had become a beacon of innovation and excellence. The waiting list for reservations stretched months ahead, with guests eager to experience the restaurant's unique blend of cultural celebration and culinary mastery. Felix Mercer, a renowned restaurant designer who had previously worked on exclusively high-end establishments, approached Ronan with an unexpected proposal. "I want to help other restaurants undergo similar transformations," he explained. "The physical space needs to reflect the values we're promoting." Stallone, who had remained deeply involved in the project, organized a special mentorship program, pairing experienced industry professionals with promising talents who had faced discrimination. "Success shouldn't depend on what you look like," he emphasized. "It should depend on your passion, skill, and dedication." The Unity Table Institute, now fully operational under Ileana Carver's leadership, had become a coveted training ground. River Bell, A former dishwasher who had been repeatedly denied advancement opportunities was among its first graduating class. "Today, I'm not just a certified sommelier," River announced during the graduation ceremony. "I'm proof that when barriers are removed, talent rises." The transformation had caught the attention of Cyrus Bellamy, the head of the National Restaurant Association's Diversity Initiative. After visiting Unity Table and meeting with the team, he announced a nationwide program to audit and address discriminatory practices in fine dining. What began as one restaurant's journey has become a catalyst for industry-wide change, Cyrus declared during a press conference. Unity Table has shown us that excellence and inclusivity aren't just compatible, they're inseparable. The documentary, being filmed by Mira Grayson, had expanded its scope to include the stories of those inspired by Unity Table's example. Harmony Grove, a small family-owned restaurant across town, had implemented similar changes and seen their business flourish. August. Klein, Harmony Grove's owner, shared his experience. "We were scared at first. Change is always frightening. But watching Unity Table's success gave us the courage to examine our own biases and make necessary changes." The resistance that had initially met Unity Table's transformation had largely dissipated, replaced by a growing recognition of the business advantages of inclusive practices. Even Arlo Bennett, once a vocal critic, had become an advocate for change. "I was wrong," Arlo admitted during a restaurant association meeting. "Unity Table hasn't just maintained standards, they've raised them. They've shown us that true luxury is about making everyone feel valued." Zara's Kitchen had become a model of collaborative excellence. She had promoted Elias Kane, a talented chef who had been overlooked elsewhere, to sous chef. Together, they were creating dishes that celebrated diversity while maintaining the highest culinary standards. "Every dish tells a story," Elias explained during a cooking demonstration. "Not just of ingredients and technique, but of cultural heritage and human connection." The impact extended beyond the restaurant industry. Camden Holt, a prominent business school professor, began using Unity Table as a case study in ethical business transformation. "They've demonstrated that moral leadership and business success aren't mutually exclusive," he noted. The Unity Table team faced an unexpected challenge when they discovered that some of their suppliers had their own discriminatory practices. Rather than simply finding new suppliers, Ronan and Stallone saw an opportunity for further transformation. "We're not just changing our restaurant," Ronan explained to the staff. "We're changing the entire ecosystem of the hospitality industry." They worked with Iris Lennox, the deputy district attorney, to develop guidelines for supplier diversity and inclusion. Phoenix Capital Partners created a fund to support minority-owned suppliers in expanding their operations to meet increased demand. The personal transformations were equally powerful. Quinn Fletcher, a server who had worked under Merrick's discriminatory regime, had become a leader in training new staff in inclusive service practices. "Under the old system, we were taught to judge guests based on appearance," Quinn shared during a training session. "Now we understand that true hospitality means treating everyone with equal respect and dignity." The Unity Table Institute had expanded its programs to include management training. Dahlia Rhodes, who had been repeatedly denied management opportunities elsewhere, was now preparing to open her own restaurant with support from Phoenix Capital Partners. "Unity Table didn't just give us jobs," Dahlia explained. "They gave us our dreams back." Stallone's involvement had attracted other celebrities and influencers, but the focus remained firmly on the mission of transformation. Each visitor was required to participate in sensitivity training before being allowed to dine at Unity Table. "This isn't about publicity," Stallone insisted. "It's about creating genuine understanding and change." The documentary captured a powerful moment when Merrick's former assistant, Talia Ashford, returned to the restaurant. She had quietly documented his discriminatory practices for years, hoping someone would eventually take action. I felt so helpless. "Oh, back then," Talia shared, her voice breaking. "Now seeing all this change, I know those years of waiting and watching weren't in vain." As the grand reopening approached, Unity Table received an unexpected honor. The International Culinary Institute announced the creation of the Unity Table Scholarship, specifically designed to support aspiring chefs from underrepresented communities. The story continues in our next chapter, where we'll witness Unity Table's grand reopening and its final triumph over discrimination in the fine dining industry. Don't forget to like and subscribe to see the conclusion of this inspiring journey. Share in the comments your own experiences of witnessing positive transformation in your community. Your stories encourage others to be part of the change. The Day of Unity. Table's grand reopening arrived with an atmosphere of anticipation and triumph. More than just a restaurant's rebirth, it represented the culmination of a movement that had transformed an industry and changed countless lives. Rowan Steele, the city's mayor, stood before the assembled crowd, his voice carrying across the gathered media and supporters. Today marks more than a restaurant's reopening. It represents our city's commitment to equality, excellence, and true hospitality. Stallone and Ronan had ensured the guest list reflected the diversity they championed. Roman Vale, a homeless veteran who had once been turned away by Merrick, sat at the same table as Lyra Stone, the state's most prominent restaurant critic. Every seat told a story of transformation. Zara Garrison emerged from the kitchen to thunderous applause. Her journey from overlooked line cook to celebrated executive chef embodied Unity Table's mission. Our menu tonight tells the story of everyone who ever dreamed of being part of this industry, but was told they didn't belong, she announced. The first course was served by Nova Wren, a former street food vendor who had completed the Unity Table Institute's inaugural program. She presented each dish with quiet confidence, explaining the cultural significance behind every element. "This appetizer," Nova explained to her section, "combines techniques I learned from my grandmother with classical French training. It represents the bridge between tradition and innovation that Unity Table champions." Juniper Cross, who had documented discriminatory practices at several high-end restaurants, premiered segments of her investigative documentary during the dinner. The contrast between the old system and Unity Table's new approach was stark and moving. "What we're witnessing isn't just a change in policy," Juniper narrated. "It's a fundamental shift in how we think about hospitality, excellence, and human dignity." The kitchen operated with masterful precision under Zara's leadership. Sienna Blake, who had risen from prep cook to sous chef, orchestrated the timing of each course with the expertise that Merrick had once claimed she couldn't possess. Eden Locke, now the director of guest relations, moved through the dining room. With grace and purpose, she paused at each table, ensuring every guest felt truly welcomed. The genuine warmth of her interactions stood in sharp contrast to the cold exclusivity of the past. Stallone took the microphone between courses to share a powerful observation. "In my career, I've played many roles, but being part of this real world transformation has been one of my greatest honors. Unity Table proves that when we remove artificial barriers, excellence naturally rises." The documentary screening continued, showing interviews with industry leaders who had initially resisted the changes. Cassius Yardley, owner of several upscale restaurants, admitted on camera, "We were wrong to confuse exclusivity with exclusion. Unity Table has shown us a better way." Phoenix Capital Partners announced a major initiative during the main course. Ronan unveiled plans to establish unity table locations in other cities, each serving as a training center and catalyst for industry transformation. "This is just the beginning," Ronan declared. "Every unity table will partner with local communities to identify and nurture talent that has been systematically overlooked." The evening's most powerful moment came when Griffin Archer, one of Merrick's most vocal former supporters, publicly apologized to those he had helped discriminate against. "I was part of the problem," he acknowledged. "Unity tables showed me how to be part of the solution." Dessert was a collaborative creation between Zara and Evangeline Holt, featuring elements from various cultural traditions. "Sweet success tastes better when shared," Zara explained as the plates were served. The evening included the graduation of the Unity Table Institute's latest class. Among them was Leela Monroe, a former dishwasher who was now preparing to become a chef de partie at a Michelin-starred restaurant. "Unity Table didn't just give us skills," Leela shared during her speech. "They gave us the confidence to demand the respect we deserve." As the evening progressed, Stallone and Ronan announced the establishment of the Unity Table Foundation, dedicated to promoting diversity and inclusion throughout the hospitality industry. The foundation would provide scholarships, mentorship, and support for legal advocacy. The success of Unity Table had created ripple effects beyond restaurants. Aurora James, a corporate diversity consultant, revealed how other industries were studying the Unity Table model. They've created a template for transforming workplace culture that can be applied anywhere. The documentary's final segment focused on the future. It showed young culinary students from diverse backgrounds touring Unity Table's kitchen, their eyes bright with possibility. "This is what opportunity looks like," Zara told them. "Your talent is what matters here, nothing else." Yadio. Evening concluded with a powerful gesture. Every guest received a Unity Table coin, designed by Isla Vance, an artist who had once been refused service under Merrick's management. One side bore the restaurant's new logo, the other, the simple words, "Excellence knows no barriers." Stallone's closing remarks captured the evening's significance. What we're celebrating isn't just a successful restaurant. It's proof that when we stand against discrimination, when we fight for inclusion, when we demand excellence from ourselves and respect for others, we all rise together. The impact of Unity Table's transformation continued to grow. The restaurant became a mandatory case study in hospitality management programs. Industry leaders regularly visited to learn from their example. But most importantly, it remained true to its mission, a place where every guest was welcomed with equal dignity and respect. 1 year after the reopening, Merrick's jail sentence for civil rights violations was coming to an end. Unity Table extended an unexpected invitation to dine as a regular guest, to experience firsthand the superior restaurant his discrimination had prevented from existing. The documentary's final scene showed Zara in her kitchen mentoring a new generation of chefs. "The secret ingredient in every dish we serve," she asked them, "dignity. When you cook with respect for your ingredients, your techniques, your heritage, and most importantly, for every guest, that's when you create something truly extraordinary." The story of Unity Table continues to inspire change across the industry and beyond. But perhaps its greatest achievement is simpler. Every day, it proves that excellence and inclusion aren't just compatible, they're inseparable. Remember to like and subscribe to see more stories of transformation and triumph over discrimination. Share in the comments your own experiences of creating positive change in your community. Together, we can ensure that Unity Table's example becomes the new standard, not the exception. And as Stallone often reminds visitors to Unity Table, the Greatest battles aren't won with fists, but with the courage to stand up for what's right, the wisdom to learn from our mistakes, and the strength to transform our world for the better.